Let me start with yours briefly, because some people might not be real clear about what a stage conception is, then we'll come back to how do you change these really difficult issues. I use Carol Gilligan as an example. A lot of people, Carol Gilligan did a wonderful book called In a Different Voice. And it's probably one of the most widely quoted books that feminists use to demonstrate that men and women tend to reason differently. And in part, that is what she said. In that book, she made two very important points, one of which has been repeated a lot, and one of which is almost entirely ignored. Ironically, the part that was repeated hasn't held up very well. The part that was ignored has more data today than it ever did. It's a very, very strong point, but I'll mention both of them. She wanted to point out that men and women tend to reason differently about moral issues, and that men tend to think in terms of a logic of rights and justice, and women use the logic of care and relationship and responsibility. So we summarize it by saying men tend to think more agentically and women more relationally or communally. Some people say, and that also men tend to think hierarchically. They're always ranking, and many reasons for that. And women tend to think in terms of linking. So they're more relational and so on. And so a whole, Rianne Eisler and so many feminists said, okay, the difference is men have this harsh ranking, hierarchical, oppressive kind of way of being, and women are touching and healing and caring and so on. That's only half of what she said. She did say that women tend to think non-hierarchically, and men think hierarchically. But both men and women's thinking develops through 4 hierarchical stages. So women's linking thinking develops through 4 stages, which she called selfish, care, universal care, and integrated. So that's a linking type of thinking, but that linking develops through 4 ranked stages, and each stage is higher. It's better. It's more inclusive. The way developmentalists decide that is very, very common, and they all proceed in essentially similar fashion. You take a group of people about this size, and you find a way to irritate them. And usually it's by asking a question that they really don't want to think about very much. And then you drill them and see what they say. She asked a simple question: does a woman have a right to an abortion? This is a variation on Lawrence Kohlberg did the same thing. He started using men. She used women only. And one of his famous questions was: a man is married to a woman who has a terminal illness. He can't afford a medicine that would cure her. Local drugstore has the medicine. Does he have a right to steal it? So Kohlberg found that there were 3 main answers that were given. Yes, he has a right to steal it. No, he does not have a right to steal it. Yes, he has a right to steal it. So then you ask, okay, why? Because, those are... And the first yes is, well, he has a right to steal it. I have a right to steal the medicine because what I say is right, fuck you. And that's known as the egocentric or pre-conventional answer. Then the next answer is, no, you can't steal medicine. And you say, why? Well, that's against the law. That would be horrible. That's terrible. What would happen if everybody did that? That's a conformist or conventional answer. Then the third response is, yes, he has the right to steal the medicine. And you say, well, why? He says, well, because life is worth more than $20 of medicine. Of course you have a right to steal it. So the first and third are the same. It's yes, no, yes. But it's pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. Now, what you do then after you've asked people those questions is you follow that group over time, usually over a long time. What you find is that if somebody gives response 2 and they change, they always go to 3 and they never go to 1. In other words, there's a sequence. So we have stages. So once you've then determined that their responses have a direction, then that means their responses aren't just responses, they're stages. So now you have a developmental sequence of stages. And then usually what developmentalists do is they try to figure out the structure of the stage and they try to explain it and so on. Carol Gilligan did the same thing. And she found the same 3 stages. She later added a 4th. And it was basically selfish care, universal care, and integrated. So that's what a lot of these developmentalists are doing when they come up with the types of things we're talking about. Different questions are addressed to the different types of intelligences that human beings have. So Piaget asked people about cognition, which is, what do you see? Describe what is. Jane Lovinger asked people, of what is, what do you call yourself? So of everything you're aware of right now, what do you call you? Is this you? Is this you? Is it? Okay. Abe Maslow asked people, of the things you're aware of right now, what do you want? Or what do you need? Claire Graves said, of the things that you're aware of right now, what do you value? Tell me what you value. Why is it important? That kind of thing. So we have, from all of this research, we have what looks to be at least a dozen intelligences: cognitive intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, moral intelligence, values, and so on. This is the way people respond in different circumstances in the environment. Those intelligences develop through stages. The final thing we find is those stages are all roughly go through the same degrees of development. So the way we think of that is like a mountain with maybe 10 paths going up it. And so you can be at 5,000 feet, and all 10 of these paths can be at 5,000 feet, even though they're really quite different. So in one sense, these are different stages, but there's a sense in saying that if you're at 5,000 feet in one line, then there's an equivalent 5,000 around. So you can make comparisons between them. So that's the general stage conceptions.